I'll remind you that this meeting is webcast. I'd also remind you that all the councillors in the chamber and nearly all the officials here are designated under the Lobbying Act, so you may need to take that into account if you're making returns. Thanks. Okay. Oh yes. Sorry.
It's not working.
No.
Yeah, that's blue. Hold on.
Okay.
It came up now. We restarted.
Hey, now. Magic touch.
Just one moment.
Okay, try it now.
Now try it.
No, try this. Just take the card out and put it back.
Yeah, we had the blue light. But then it worked.
Same thing again. I just have to turn off the system altogether.
Okay.
That blue light, that came up.
What about then the voting?
The voting is you want to.
Pardon?
You have to do the manual voting, I think.
Oh, do we have a variation?
I think that's the only way you want to get your mics to work.
Yeah, now we have the blue light. Now.
They should work now. They're working now. They're on now, but
They're on now.
the voting system is.
Yeah, I have it. You start me.
The voting system is disabled.
Yeah, we'll just impose it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we've all those variations. We've all those variations. No,
Right.
Sorry, just give us one moment. We're just rebooting. Yeah. Well, it couldn't even be roll call. We can just put hands, but.
Huh? Are we ready? Yeah. We have a moment of reflection to start with. Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay. Right, members. While the system is being rebooted, we can take Lord Mayor's business if that's in order. The first item under Lord Mayor's business is that I've been informed by the Chief Executive, Owen Keegan, that by letter dated the 25th of February 2020, that he has decided to extend his contract of employment for the permitted period of 3 years to September 2023. Oh, that was last week. So the next thing is I'm going to ask the Chief Executive to address us on the issue of the coronavirus update.
Hello, good evening. Acting Head of HR, yeah. Thanks for the opportunity to update you today on the coronavirus COVID-19. Like most organisations, both worldwide and in the country, we've been engaged on this for a period of time. That level of engagement has obviously increased over the past number of days and weeks. Just to tell you about some of the steps that we are taking, and we are following to the letter the advice of the HSE. The HSE on their websites and their almost daily publications at this stage are updating organisations and employees throughout the country on this. The HSE advice is that the risk of catching coronavirus is still very low. This may change. However, most people may continue to go to work, school and other public places as usual. Just some of the steps being taken by the City Council to date. Last week we convened the Crisis Management Working Group, and we broke that group into two work streams. One was the operational day-to-day management of the issue, and the second issue was, should the situation worsen, we have got involved in our business continuity planning. Every department has business continuity plans, and obviously as a group we have to bring that together corporately and prioritise and so forth. But that's in the situation, that's should the situation deteriorate. We have advised all staff in relation to the advice from the HSE. We've put in place in certain areas enhanced cleaning regimes, including increased sanitisation and certainly increased cleaning regimes in our areas that are most heavily used by the public. They would be the Civic Offices, the Motor Tax Office and the Dublin Regional Homeless Executive. We've also asked to review foreign travel for business purposes, and we'll be reviewing those on a case-by-case basis. We have set up a dedicated email address and helpline for our staff within the HR department, and as of today we've got quite a few calls on that. The HSE have been quite clear on the guidelines, and I just reiterate them as they stand at the moment. It's if you have symptoms, if you've travelled to a foreign or one of those affected regions which are named again on the website and have symptoms, you stay away or self-isolate as it's called. You get in contact with your GP without delay. If you've been to those regions and do not have symptoms, you visit the WHSC helpline for advice, but you can come to work as normal, obviously, having regard to their advice. So that's the information we have been given to staff. We're continuing to monitor the situation. That group will be meeting on an almost daily basis at this stage. And I would just say that at the moment, within the organisation, there are two distinct protocols. One for the general body of workers, and there's a specific one for healthcare workers, which in this case would be our fire brigade and ambulance service. So that's basically what we have done at the moment.
Thank you, Manager. Just to move on then, in respect to St Patrick's Day, if members could confirm with Ruth Dowling as soon as possible if they intend to attend the parade, as otherwise she will reallocate the tickets to another councillor, and obviously that's subject to review in the light of what the Manager just previously has said. There's also an invitation to Corlin and Oak to send a delegation to make a presentation to Dublin City Council. This is at the request of Councillor Nicolaud. The invitation is for representatives of Dublin City, Corlin and Oak to address the Council to speak about what they do. It will be an opportunity for councillors to gain awareness of what Corla does. Are members happy for this presentation to take place during a Council meeting? Agreed. Great, right. Now, the next item then is training on corporate governance for councillors. Training on your role as a director on outside bodies and boards is available to all councillors. Chief Executive's Department have asked the Office of the Director of Corporate Enforcement, the ODCE, to provide this training in City Hall, Council Chambers. There are two separate dates arranged: the 30th of March 2020, an evening session from 6 to 7:30 p.m, and the 1st of April 2020, morning session from 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. Also, ethics declarations. I'm sure all members have returned the ethics declarations to Ruth Dowling. They were due at the end of last week, just to remind you of that. We've dealt with the City Council photo. Just as well as that, the arrangements for the Shannon ballot or the voting must be arranged with Deirdre between the 15th and 27th of this month. Now, the final issue on the Lord Mayor's business, or the second last issue on Lord Mayor's business, is I don't know if members were all circulated with an email from a lady in Kildare in respect of the stillbirth register. The motion has been circularised, and I think it's and I just wonder, can we take that without debate? Right. Thank you, members. The final issue then is there was a motion for, or an issue for topical issue, which is the Dublin City residential freeze. Can we take that now? We need to get 2/3 of members to agree to debate that later this evening.
So under standing orders, if you want to go ahead and take that item, it's a topical issue. We'll still be taking it when we get to topical issues, but we need 2/3 of you to agree to that topical issue, which is, sorry, you're all agreed on taking it. Okay.
Right.
Okay. Okay. Actually, maybe if people... Sorry. Just, the topical issue is Dublin City residential rent freeze is the topical issue. Can we just do a show of hands at the moment? Sorry, just for who are in favour of taking that. So.
Yeah. What's the 2/3? That's agreed. Okay. Right. So the next item.
Next item is question if we voon or do Councillor Burke and Councillor Jackson. Is that agreed for noting? Item 3, correspondence from Galway, Kerry and Donegal City Council. Can I have a proposer for that? Councillor Terence Flanagan and Councillor Declan Flanagan. Is that agreed? Item 4, to confirm the minutes of the February Council meeting. Can I have a proposer for that? Councillor Jackson and Councillor Batten. Is that agreed? To fill item 5 is to fill vacancies on the following committees and outside bodies. Do we have a Councillor Lacey?
Lord Mayor, I'll ask that you bear with me, but the following are the agreed nominations. For the Traffic and Transport Committee, Carolyn Moore, Daniel Ketchen, Paddy McCartan and Deirdre Conroy. For the Economic Development and Enterprise SPC, Patricia Rowe. For the Housing SPC, Catherine Stocker and Breege McCusker. For member of the Arts, Culture and Leisure SPC, Cat O'Driscoll. And there will be a subsequent nomination for chair of that committee for the same Councillor Cat O'Driscoll, but I think that has to be taken at the end. For the Dublin Joint Policing Committee, Darcy Lonergan. For the Finance SPC, Darcy Lonergan. For the Local Travellers Accommodation Committee, Janet Horner. For the Planning and Urban SPC, Darcy Lonergan. It's proposed to defer the Green appointment to the Protocol Committee, but to appoint Breege McCusker for Fianna Fáil and to defer the nominee of the Social Democrats. For the Local Community Development Committee, Carolyn Moore. For the Eastern and Midlands Regional Assembly, Janet Horner. It's proposed to defer the last place on the Moore Street Advisory Committee. For the Dublin City bid, Patricia Rowe. for the Board of Dublin City Cultural Committee, which follows on from being chair of the Arts SPC, Catra Driscoll, for the Rotunda Hospital, Darcy Lonergan, and for the Board of the Beaumont Hospital, Darrell Barron. And I'll give those to the officials before the end. Thanks.
Have we a seconder for those nominations? Councillor Heaney? Is there anybody? Are they agreed then? Okay. If we could have a record of that, Councillor Lacey, that would be appreciated.
Sorry, I think Councillor McAdam has a problem.
Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry.
The north side appointment for the inner city, for the bid, must come from the inner city ward or the Caberglass, the central area, because it is specific. Maybe I missed that. You need to double check that.
Come back to that at the end of the meeting.
I think Councillor Gannon was on the board, but he wasn't. He was representing Caberglass.
Okay,
yeah.
Let's come back to it.
It's from the central area, yeah. So, what is from the central area?
Yeah. Okay.
And can we then just take the chair of the SPC then? Can I have a nomination for the chair of the SPC? And can I have a seconder? Is Councillor Joe Costello. All right, so are those appointments agreed? And thank you for your cooperation and pulling those together. Thank you. Item number 6, report number, the monthly local fund statement. Can I have a proposer, Councillor McGrattan? Can I have a seconder? Is Councillor Terence Flanagan. Is that report agreed? It's Councillor
Flanagan.
Lord Mayor. Just a couple of questions on the monthly report in relation to just comparison, I suppose, year on year on the development levies. There's an increase there in 4 million, and also regarding the rates have gone up 7 million as well on last year. Just as there's a bit more information in relation to that, and are there other payments as well outstanding, say from other local authorities in relation to Dublin Fire Brigade, or has all that money been paid now at this stage?
Manager.
Thanks, Lord Mayor. In terms of rates, the issues involved in that is that in 2019 there was reduced amounts of direct debit from 2019 were in process until until the following month. So just in this period it looks as if there was less collected, but it's just a close-off date, so there's no issue in terms of that. The rate collection has gone well for 2020 thus far, and there's no major difference between 2019. In terms of the what? The levies, no. In terms of this time last year, there just wasn't an amounts, specific amounts over 1 million to draw your attention to, and that's the purpose of the report. There's lots of amounts all the time, and so there isn't any issue in terms of our projections on levies of 2019 over 20. So while it looks as there's a gap in 2020, it's not something that we're worried about at this time.
Are large amounts owing still on levies, or is everything up to date?
In terms of levies, there's planned payments with people that owe levies, and they can run from regular phase payments. They would be linked up to when the developments are commenced and so on. So that's tightly managed, and there aren't any issues whereby there's amounts outstanding that we're not pursuing.
Report agreed. Item number 7, report number 78, report on draft Section 8 Development Contribution Scheme 2020 to 23. Can I have a proposer for that, Councillor McAdam and Councillor Stocker? Is that report agreed? Sorry.
Lord Mayor.
Manager, do you want to come in there?
Yeah, no, it's agreed.
It's agreed.
No,
okay.
Councillor Pitton.
Well,
Could I just...
Mr. Costello.
yeah, one query. There's a rather substantial reduction in the development levy, the contribution levy, in relation to Class 2, which is drainage, infrastructure and facilities. It's down by 2/3, which is extremely substantial. And then in levy 3 and Class 3 and Class 4 is up by 1/3 to 1/2. you know, they're very, very sharp increases and very sharp reductions, and I'm just wondering why this should take place for this period between 2020 and 2023. The others are the two other ones, the increases in Class 3, which is parks and open spaces, and in Class 4, which is community facilities and amenities. But the chief engineer seems to indicate that he's quite happy with them, that he balanced the budget, but nevertheless the sharp changes in the different classes is what I'm asking about.
This be because of Irish water, which is coming from central government.
Sorry, yeah. do you want, Councillor Pigeon, do you want to come in first?
Yeah, sure, if that's helpful. I was going to propose, and initially was going to propose 2 amendments to this. One was to increase the commercial rate to make a greater difference with residential development and thus hopefully incentivise more residential development. The other was to include car parking, because something that's really bizarre in this is that a lot of car parking is not subject to development levies, even though cars and incentivising and encouraging car dependency obviously is fairly wide social costs and costs to the city. I was advised that if we did that, we would have to go back out to consultation. It would cost the city money, so I've withdrawn those. But I just wanted to flag and hopefully get a public commitment, if possible, that we could, in the review that's going to be in, I think, 2 years, that we could have a report or some details or some options before then about how best and how most effectively to bring car parking in some form into the development levy scheme. Thank you.
Councillor Heaney. Sorry, Councillor Heaney had indicated, but Councillor Stuckey, you go.
I just want to speak with regard to what Councillor Costello has raised here. The reduction in the percentage of the development contribution scheme going to drainage is accompanied by an increase in the percentage of the development contribution scheme going to parks and open spaces from 12 to 17%, and an increase in that going to community facilities from 17 to 22%. And I'd just like to acknowledge that those increases are consequent upon a submission made by my colleague, Councillor Gary Gannon, requesting that the council management and the engineers look at whether we could reduce the proportion going towards the drainage components and increase that which went towards community facilities, parks and open spaces, which I think we can all agree the city is crying out for. And just to say that this is kind of reflective of our wider desire in the Social Democrats to build sustainable, vibrant communities rather than just bricks and mortar developments.
Manager.
It's a cashed kind of Class 2, so the reduction, there's an awful lot of conversations going on, Lord Mayor.
Can we have some silence for the speaker, please?
Class 2, you're saying you're reducing the spend or the contribution per square metre of residential development for drainage, surface water, flooding and infrastructure and facilities. Does that mean that less money is going to be spent on that? Or does it just mean that less money is being attached to a development levy for a developer? Is that what that means? Because while I hugely support money spent on parks and open spaces, community facilities, my party is hugely in favour of sustainable communities, but there are serious issues around surface water flooding in the city, especially when we build on floodplains and the like. So I'm just wondering, is it just that the contribution from the development levy is going to be reduced, but it doesn't mean that the city is going to spend less on drainage, surface water, flooding, infrastructure and facilities?
Anyone else now? Manager?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I suppose the big piece here is the drop in the funding for the drainage side of the house. We had conversations with the city engineer, and he's confident that with the OPW funding that is available and the works that are on, in stream as such, there was, for a period of 2 years, and we'd review it after 2 years, he was happy enough to redistribute it to the other two classes. And just in terms of Councillor Pigeon, we will commit to review the car parking as part of it, as requested.
Is that report agreed then?
No, I have a question.
Okay.
Councillor Freehill.
I just want to get clarity on this, and that is that the development levies that's paid in relation to building in any particular area, that the council is not precluded from using this levy to carry out local area plans.
Yeah, I'll take that one. This is for capital infrastructure works, not for the implementing of or the carrying out of local area plans or development plans. It is purely and simply for infrastructure that we levy development. No, they are. No, they are. I mean, the types of development.
Councillor Freehill, allow the manager to answer.
The types of development. If you look at the report on page from page 95 through, these are the project lists that these levies are due to fund. Nowhere there is there any mention of a development plan, a local area plan. So no, it will be precluded to spend money on a local area plan, in that it doesn't fall within the scheme in terms of development. It's set by primary legislation.
To be clear, a lot of these infrastructure schemes are referenced in our development plan, in our local area plan. So they're all council-approved infrastructure schemes, part of our capital programme. Non-residential, because we can't apply development levy. So they're, a lot of them would be referenced in local area plans and in the development plan.
Councillor Nicolod.
Thank you. Page 95, just looking for details, I suppose. Page 95 on the class 5, number 21 and number 24, it says markets refurb phase 2A. Can we know what specifically it will be for? Thank you.
We hadn't moved to the next item. I was looking for clarification. I wanted to ask about clarification on that item. All we have on this particular item is that the Chief Engineer says he is accepting that the reduction by 2/3 will not impact on his current programme. But he has given us absolutely no reason, no explanation how it will not impact. And how could you have such a reduction in the contribution levy by 2/3 without some impact taking place?
Councillor Costello, sorry, I thought I'd covered that off. There is funding available through the OPW, and there is funding on hand, and will not result over the next 2 years. We
should have that information.
Councillor Costello, will you let the manager finish his reply?
And we will not impact on the delivery of drainage projects over the next 2 years.
Mayor, all I'm saying is that that information should have been provided there should have been an explanation, because a reduction of 2/3 is a huge reduction, and there was no explanation whatsoever given.
Sir.
Councillor Nicolò, just in terms of the two markets items, there would be an element of that is for the refurbishment once we have gone out to tender for the Victorian fruit and vegetable market in the near future.
Councillor Flynn.
Thank you very much. Could I ask the management, could I have a supplementary report on what schemes are available from the OPW which we would be applying to? I know that there's a number of them in relation to grant aiding these particular kind of works, particularly drainage and flood works. So could we have a supplementary report as to which ones you intend to apply for that would actually buttress up your report so as that we don't have this anomaly? Thank you.
Yeah, that's no problem.
Is that report agreed? Agreed. Item number 9, report number 77, proposed variations, numbers 8. 8. Oh, sorry.
Number 7.
Oh, so,
Item 8, number 7.
oh, sorry. Item 8, report number 36, proposed variation number 7 to the City Development Plan 2016 to 2022. Can I have a proposer for that? Councillor Ray McAdam and Councillor Burke. Is that report agreed? Oh, no. Okay.
Councillor Jackson.
Sorry, Lord Mayor. Just a point of order of, on information as to how you propose to proceed. We have a total of 19 variations. Are we taking the report in its entirety, or are we taking it variation by variation?
Each one will be dealt with.
Sorry, Councillor Dunn, that's the next report. That's not this.
This is a separate variation. This is incorporating the regional spatial economic. Yeah. Yes.
Sorry, are we...
Sorry, yeah, the manager wants to come in, and I think we take questions after the manager has spoken.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to take the opportunity to explain very briefly as a result of the National Planning Framework and the Regional Strategy, we were required to amend your City Development Plan in a few key respects. So we did review it, and the report in front of you is a result of that review. What we found was that the City Development Plan approved by yourselves 4 years ago is already consistent with both the National Planning Framework and the Regional Strategy. So there's very little amendment to do, and that's due to large part to the foresight of this council and you as councillors. So the summary of changes are to update the text, to stop referring to the National Spatial Strategy and refer to the National Planning Framework, to update the population targets. And our population targets we had a specific population increase, but there's a range up to 2022 from 43,000 to 52,000. Our development plan, your development plan, was 50,000, which is within that range. The housing target was in the regional strategy was from 21,000 to 26,000. We had 29,000, but that was over 7 years. So annualised, we are entirely in accordance with the National Planning Framework. We also include some climate change objectives that the City Council is to commit to the Climate Change Action Plan as requested in the National Planning Framework, and that's essentially it. So the report, we are largely consistent with the National Planning Framework and the regional strategy, and that's why the Chief Executive is recommending we approve it.
Councillor Nicolaud.
Thank you. I just have a question on the submission from the OPR and I suppose it was accepted or it's recommended that it would be omitted. I just want some explanation on that, or if anyone else is going to take the role of what this proposal was proposing is to monitor changes. So if I can have some explanation on that, thank you.
Do you want to take some questions from other councillors before you answer? Okay. Councillor Stocker, do you want to come in? Just to let members know as well, the system, the voting system is not working, so I don't know unless you physically indicate that you want to speak. Thanks.
Okay, so just to say that we do not concur with the assessment that this is just a change in the names of the documents we're referencing here, but that rather incorporating the National Planning Framework and the National Regional Spatial and Economic Strategy is an incorporation of flawed national policy into the Dublin City Development Plan without proper investigation and consultation amongst councillors and the public, and that it gives greater weight to things like Section 28 guidelines on apartment standards and the lifting of height restrictions in respect of planning decisions in the Dublin City Development Plan, and on that basis we would not be supportive of this variation.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Stocker. Councillor Lyons. Councillor Lacey, sorry, I'll come back to you.
Yeah, Lord Mayor, I mean, I think the first thing we should acknowledge is that the pretence that we have a real say in deciding these sort of plans should be sort of blown out of the water. Most planning is decided and determined by circulars issued from either the Customs House or from the Department of Transport. And the say that we have is a bit of a sort of facade to cover our lack of real power in relation to local government and to planning. Within this plan you have, for example, reference to the planning decisions made by the Eastern and Midlands Regional Assembly. I am a member of that Assembly. That Assembly did agree a plan, but of course the Assembly had to amend the plan under the dictation of the Minister. The Minister decides what should be in the plan and not us. So there's a real issue that needs to be highlighted at local government level at every possible opportunity. Responsibility for planning, control of local government, determination of transport is all made by the bureaucrats at national level, sometimes interfered by competent ministers, but more often interfered with by a series of incompetent ministers who have no regard for this city whatsoever. But the singular issue that I want to raise is the impact of the decision in relation to the Eastern Bypass. Now, the Eastern Bypass has been a source of a lot of contention over the years, but finally we agreed on a particular route for the Eastern Bypass 21 years ago. But since then, we've had to freeze.
Just to let you know, yeah. Councillor Lacey, that's on a different variation. I'm just
it's actually, if you read this report, it's referenced to in this as well, Lord Mayor. So I don't mind saying the same things the second time in 5 minutes' time, or just continuing for the remaining.
You may have
30
finished
seconds.
now, as soon as you've started.
You know, the issue is the Eastern the possibility of having an Eastern Bypass has sterilised parts of the North Inner City, parts of the South Inner City, and parts of South County Dublin out by the, I think it's called the Radisson Hotel. You know, the state should either decide to build a road or to scrap the road. But leaving huge tracts of the city, you know, idle and not being able to use is not in our best interest. So I believe, Lord Mayor, that, you know, other councillors are going to make other comments on the detail of these rezonings. But on the Eastern Bypass, we should write to the Minister, though we should probably write to the Secretary-General of the Department, because that's who will decide these things anyway. Write to the senior bureaucrats in both the Department of Transport and the Department of Housing, Planning and Local Government, and simply ask them, are you ever going to build this road, or are you going to drop it? But they should do one or the other. They shouldn't continue to leave the city in the limbo of having to plan for road that they're not going to pay for, or they are going to pay for it. But let them tell us, because the current situation is not, in my view, very acceptable. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Lacey. Councillor Lyons is next. I'll come to you.
Yeah, thanks, Lord Mayor. It's really just a question for John in relation to passing this variation. What does it do with respect to the guidelines on heights that were issued in December of 2018? Are we, by varying the development plan, are we incorporating those unfortunate changes to the guidelines on heights into our development plan? I know it has been mentioned in respect to the apartment standards, section 28. The other issues around population and the housing targets, I take it the report is pretty clear on that, the 6 to 7 year period. But just to be very clear, because we at this moment in time have a battle on our hands, because our development plan has been undermined by the ministerial circular with regard to heights, and it's having, I mean, an incredibly negative impact, I think, potentially right across the city. We see also the strategic housing developments, but that's a separate issue, which I think is pertinent to the next item on the agenda. But just in relation to this, just to be very clear, what is the status currently of the ministerial guidelines on heights with respect to our development plan as it is now? I know we have reference to it, a statutory obligation to refer to it, but if we vary, if we pass this variation, are we in effect incorporating those guidelines on heights into our development plan? Thank you.
Councillor Freehill.
Thank you very much. Sorry.
Councillor Freehill, if you just...
You hit the
switch on
button.
again.
Well, that's the voting system I said wasn't working. No, Councillor Heaney.
Yeah, it's just a brief question.
Voting system.
It's just a brief question, or they're related to the previous speaker. If we don't agree to pass this variation this evening, practically, what happens? Where does that leave us, and what and how is it incorporated into our development plan?
Manager, do you want to come in and answer that? Councillor Freehill.
Well, it would have been very interesting to hear what the manager has to say about that. I'm sure it's not that urgent at all. What I really wanted to say is, apropos what Councillor Lacey has been talking about, how, in fact, local government is very seriously diminishing in this country. And having served for many, many years on the Committee of the Regions in Brussels, that is an assembly of regional and local government throughout the European Union, I can see that Ireland is a mild shade of democracy in comparison to the rest of Europe. Our local government system has been diminishing during the years that I've been here. It was already extremely weak in the first instance, and it is getting worse by the month. And that is very serious. When we talk about the regional assembly, I'm also a member there. We put in some proposals that we should have extend the light rail system in the interest of climate change and the interest of being sustainability, but the minister overrode. He took in some kind of somebody who came along, an inspector or something, who just retired from one of the local authorities, and they decided against. I think they put in one or two very kind of not very important points, but they certainly knocked everything that we recommended. Now, doesn't that make a joke? In actual fact, the Regional Assembly was the only democratically elected council in this country that actually made a decision in relation to public transport. And our technocratic and our government couldn't take that level of democracy. And that is what we're living with in this country. And I'm saying this very consciously because it's a new council, newly elected members, some new members that came on last month. That this is something that we have to start taking far more seriously in this council if we want to truly represent the people who elected us, that we need to have a much, much stronger local government in Ireland, and therefore we have to take a much more strategic approach. And in fact, I would welcome us referring this back, which would give us an awful lot more time to study it in greater detail. Whether it requires a special meeting, so be it.
Okay,
but there just isn't enough information for us to make that decision this evening. And I think we need to go through it indeed.
Thanks, Councillor Freehill. Councillor.
Thanks.
Councillor McAdam.
Thanks.
Just before you start, Councillor McAdam, the mics are working, but I just don't get an indication of who it is. So just push the button. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Councillor Byrne, will you indicate it to me earlier on? Will you hit the button? Thanks.
Perfect.
Councillor McAdam.
Lord Mayor, just given we were starting this variation debate and then the next 20-odd, we had the Office of the Planning Regulator into the SPC last Tuesday, and both Mr Shakespeare and Mr O'Hara were present. And I think, given that role is now a requirement following the Mahon Tribunal recommendations, can either one of them outline to us, to the Council, I think this is equally important, if not more actually, the role that what happens in the event that we as an elected body don't take on board the recommendations of the Office of the Planning Regulator and the consequences of that, given the fact that we're these variations tonight, but equally then that we'll be reviewing the development plan and starting that new development plan process later this year. Thanks, Lord Mayor.
Okay, now there's at least 3 other speakers. I propose now to take the manager in and we take the last 3 after when he's finished.
Thanks, Chair. With regard to Councillor Nicola's question, both the OPR and EMRA are working on climate indicators as we speak, and will be continually working on those to update that aspect of the EMRA and the climate change strategy. With regard to the question from Councillor Stocker about national policy. National policy overrides the development plan, and as much as we may not like it, either as councillors or on some occasions as planners and officers, we have to abide by national policy. Regarding Councillor Lacey, the Eastern Bypass, again, it's in the same vein. The Eastern Bypass remains national policy and National Transport Authority policy, whilst we here may not necessarily agree with the idea of motorways any longer. It remains policy until such time as it's changed. With regard to Councillor Lyon's question, on the guidelines on heights are standalone. They are ministerial guidelines under Section 28 of the plan, and they stand alone from both the development plan and any local area plan. So they are, as a freestanding, and they prevail at all times. Councillor Heaney's question, if we don't agree with this, the first point I want to make is this variation must be agreed by this Friday, whatever date that is, by statute. And I'll combine this question with Councillor McAdams' question. If we do not, the decision made by the Council, either tonight or before Friday, must be relayed to the Office of Planning Regulator within 5 days. The Office of Planning Regulator then decides whether the Council's decision is acceptable or needs to be referred to the Minister. If it's referred to the Minister can either accept or he can direct the Council to include it in the development plan. That's as I understand it. Thank you. I don't want to sound like Sir Humphrey, but I can't possibly surmise. Yeah.
Councillor Cooney.
Yeah, just to say I've mixed reviews. There's much to be welcomed in this in relation to the cycle network, the Greater Dublin Area Cycle Network. But then I have a couple of concerns, and I suppose it might even just a little bit of tweaking in relation to the reallocating less intensive use outside the M50 ring in particular. Could we say some less intensive uses, because there are some small businesses and enterprises, you know, that it's best that you do have them in the locality, and then if people are going to work and live in the locality, we don't want to have all less intensive outside the M50. And then just another issue is in relation to the expansion, facilitate the growth of Dublin Port through greater efficiency, limited expansion to Dublin Harbour, and the improved road access, particularly to the southern port area. Pardon? Just to say that that I think that that we should be looking at more rail and roll on, roll off rail rather than more road access. Rather than, you know, looking at it, whereas at one point we're saying that we're looking at the climate action and a climate plan, and then at the other hand we're looking at more road access. So I think we could look at possibly at rail. I think we need to get rid of the whole notion of the Eastern Bypass. I would agree with Councillor Lacey and Councillor Byrne that that's something that needs to be sort of, you know, agreed with at national level, because where it's not allowing us to develop down on the East Wall Road, which, you know, is really in need of some development down there, and to put in our cycleway there as well. Thank you. Have I gone completely off?
Oh, I thought we were finished. We need.
Several other speakers have indicated. Councillor Costello.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Look, there's decent justification for these variations in the sense of the city footprint being increased by $250,000 in the next 10 years or whatever, and 50% of it being within the city boundary, and then shortfalls in community and cultural developments that need to be addressed. But if all of this was going to happen, why have we to get the Office of the Planning Regulator? We have to approach, or we have to have made a decision within 5 days. Why couldn't we have all of this before us before this point in time? It seems to me that the new city plan, the development plan, will be starting within a short few months, and why we couldn't have incorporated and begin the process in the new city development plan rather than providing something of a hornet's nest at this point in time. We have loads of land to be building on at the moment without the rezonings, the 20 rezonings we're talking about. And finally, on the Eastern Bypass, it's 50 years ago since that was proposed. 20 years ago that was rejected by this City Council unanimously in 1992. And here it hasn't reared its head now again until today. So what are we doing with, scaremongering or bringing up issues that don't exist in the public domain at all?
Thanks, Councillor Byrne.
Thank you, and thanks for the report. Again, just it'd be good to get some clarification about how we're voting on these individual amendments, in particular in relation to...
Sorry, Councillor Byrne, we're still dealing with the previous report.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about, in particular the proposed amendment to policy CHC 31, where we're changing the existing wording referencing all large-scale mixed-use development to proposals of over 1,000 units in excess of 10,000 square metres. It's good to put a figure on it, but that figure is completely unachievable and won't deliver any additional cultural and community space. So I just wonder how we can review that, please. And just while we're on the subject of the Eastern Bypass, I'm supportive of the rezoning initiatives, but it's absolutely ludicrous that we are looking at choosing, in the middle of a housing crisis and a climate crisis, that we're choosing roads over housing. We're talking about 10,000 homeless people who probably don't even own cars. What use is this road to them? We've no funding for this road. It's not even referenced as a core objective in the National Planning Framework, which has ignited these variations. So while I'm all for adhering to planning and development, we're in a situation where it's been ignored in many cases of development in the city by An Bord Pleanála, yet we're adhering to it in these ludicrous situations. We're about to start on a new development plan. Myself and my colleagues voted to remove the Eastern Bypass, and it was supported and then rejected by the manager. I look forward to the next development plan, although I do question what, is it even worth the paper it's written on half the time? But I hope to get support next time round so we can start putting people and housing first. We have to reduce our carbon emissions by 7% every year. We do not do that by building unnecessary roads, burying underneath a UNESCO biosphere. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Byrne. Now, Councillor Freehill, you've already been in, so please keep it brief.
Absolutely. It sounds like the Eastern Bypass is resting like Father Ted in some department, in some government department, I suppose, in the Department of Transport. I cut my political teeth back in the 70s in relation to opposing the Eastern Bypass. But the point is that it's lying dormant in some government department. And that highlights the lack of connected upness between local government and central government, and where they just go off on their own accord. But the real question I want to ask, Lord Mayor, is how long has this been in with the officials in the City Council? Why is this coming to us 5 days before the decision has got to be made? What date did it come? And, why weren't we informed of this?
Councillor Freehill, that question's already been asked.
Well, I didn't get I didn't hear the answer, sorry.
We're taking it in groups of threes.
Well, when did it come?
Councillor Donoghue.
Excuse me. Yeah, thanks. I'd like an answer to that question as to why it's been brought here. It seems to be a habit, in fairness, in the council that decisions are brought at the 11th hour, and there may be an explanation for it, but it does happen with a degree of frequency that's frustrating. And the other thing, just for the purposes of my own clarity, are you saying that if we don't approve it, that the minister can just tell us to do it anyway? Because it's an unusual dance that we're doing here that's taken up a lot of the council's time. In order to not be engaged with, not really be seriously considered, and then just be told it's going to happen anyway.
Okay, Manager.
Chair, I acknowledge all of those questions there. Perhaps if I can answer them by one answer might cope with a lot of them. This report is required by the department and by government in order to make our development plan consistent with national and regional policy. In a way, it's an interim report because, as a couple of councillors already mentioned, we're beginning the review of the next development plan, your next development plan, in August of this year. That'll be the next plan from 22-23. 2021. So this is simply a bridging piece of work. All of the matters that you've raised, including the Eastern Bypass, including the audit of community facilities, will be reviewed and reconsidered in this chamber over a 2-year process from the issues paper on by yourselves. So what we were doing here, and we were under as much pressure as you, because we had to carry out a statutory public consultation for 4 weeks there, and we had to assess the material that came back. And all of those things were put together, brought to you as soon as we could, as soon as we were able to. But I'm reluctant to use the word as a bandage, but it's to get us over until we start to review the plan. So the manager's recommendation to you is that this report and these amendments that we're proposing, we are firmly of the belief that these make the plan consistent with national and regional policy until we begin the review in August of this year with yourselves.
Thanks, Manager. There was a proposal by Councillor Lacey that we write to the 2 different departments involved in this on this issue. Is there a seconder for that proposal? Councillor Gagan. Okay. Thanks, members.
Is that report agreed?
We put the matter to a vote.
Okay, now this is where it's going to get a bit, if we're taking votes today, unfortunately our voting system just went down before the meeting. We'll either have to take roll call votes or our count hands, whichever. So, so if we're taking a vote on this one, roll call, okay? So it's a yes or no answer, okay? Yes, no, or abstain, okay? Councillor Barron, Councillor Batten. If you just hit your buttons when you're saying it, you'll just. Councillor Boylan, absent. Councillor Brabazon.
Yes.
Councillor Burke. Councillor Byrne. No. Councillor Callaghan.
No.
Oh, Councillor Danny Byrne. Absent. Councillor Callaghan, Councillor Caton.
Support.
Support. Okay. So, okay. Councillor Byrne. Do you want to vote? Yes. Okay. Councillor Chu. Yes. Councillor Conahan? Councillor, if you'll use the microphones, it just be picked up by the webcasting. Councillor Connolly?
Yes.
Councillor Conroy? Yes. Actually, that was Carolyn Conroy, was it? Yes, sorry. And Councillor Deirdre Conroy? No. Okay. Councillor Cooney? Yes. Okay. Councillor Costello? Yes. Councillor De Northun?
No.
Councillor De Royster?
Yes.
Councillor Deasy?
No.
Councillor Donoghue?
Yes.
Councillor Doolan? Absent. Okay. Councillor Dunn?
No.
Councillor Feeney?
Yes.
Councillor Fitzpatrick? Councillor Declan Flanagan?
Yes.
Councillor Terence Flanagan? Councillor Flynn?
No.
Councillor Mannix Flynn? Councillor Freehill?
Reluctantly, yes.
Councillor Gagan? Councillor Gilliland?
No.
Councillor Hemmings? Councillor Heaney? Councillor Horgan, absent. Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah, sorry.
No.
No, okay. Councillor Horner?
Yes.
Councillor Jackson?
Yes.
Councillor Lacey?
Same as Councillor Freehill, reluctantly, yes.
Okay. Councillor Lonergan? Councillor Lyons?
No.
Councillor McDonagh?
Tá.
Councillor McOsker?
Yes.
Councillor McVeigh?
No.
Councillor McAdam? Councillor McCartan? Absent. Okay. Councillor McGrattan?
Over.
Councillor Moore? Councillor Moynihan? Yes. Councillor Nigoli?
Evolver?
Councillor Nicolod?
Yes.
Councillor O'Murray? Councillor O'Connor? Yes. Councillor O'Driscoll?
No.
Councillor O'Farrell? No. Councillor O'Rourke? No. Councillor O'Toole? No. Councillor Perry? No. Councillor Pigeon? No. Councillor O'Reilly? No. Councillor Ring? Yes. Councillor Rowe?
No.
Councillor Sherlock?
No.
Councillor Stocker? No. And Councillor Waters? Okay, just give us one moment. The ayes have it, 36.
Okay, the variation has been carried.
So if we go on to the next. Sorry, apologies. Item number 10. This is, item number 9. Proposed variations number 8 to 27 to the City Development Plan 2016 to 2022. To open up the report, can I have a proposer is Councillor Trent Flanagan and Councillor Ray McAdam. Do you want to start?
Yeah. Okay, members, what I propose to do with your agreement is to take each variation one at a time.
Can we have general discussion of the variations before we go to doing each of them?
Yeah, we're in agreement with that. Okay, so open up. Sorry, if we let the manager make a presentation first.
Chair.
No, but they're going to take them one by one. Yeah. Very.
During the development plan, we get a few days to do this, you know, and we're pushed and we're told because it's legislation and all this. And these are very important variations. They're very important for residents living in the area. They're very important for housing. And I don't know if there's a want out there. Would we have a special meeting just for this? I just don't think it's fair. There's so many variations here tonight. Each one of them is important to each of the councillors here, and they're sort of boxed into a meeting in the middle of a meeting. And I think they deserve a meeting, a special meeting. We've had special meetings for lesser things, and I don't know, with the agreement of the council. And if you don't want to, that's okay. But I think they warrant a special meeting to go through them. Thank you.
Manager, do you have a comment to make on that?
Yeah, I mean, we need to get this done by the 14th of March. Okay. So this is the nearest council meeting to it. So, you know, I've no particular objection. I would like to try to give some of them a crack, but I've no particular objection to a special meeting. But that's not in my particular hands.
Are the members agreeable to is there a second for that proposal?
No. We'd like some discussion now.
Right. Okay, so we have a proposal at the moment, and we have a counter proposal from Councillor Lacey.
That's the statutory time frame within which we need to do it. They fall.
Okay, so there's no consensus on it, so we proceed. So we start off with the manager.
Thank you, Chair. I just thought, for the sake, because of new councillors here, and some of us, it's a few years since the development plan, I might set a bit of a context for you. 4 years ago, you as members of the City Council, in responding to the need to address the housing supply issues and to reduce urban sprawl and all those sustainability issues, you agreed to review all of the industrial lands, to carry out a survey. In doing so, the development plan was ahead of the National Planning Framework, which we just talked about, and the Regional Spatial and Economic Strategy. The Planning Office proceeded with a survey of 600 hectares of such industrial and warehouse lands in the city. 82 sites were reviewed. In March of last year, the manager brought a report to the City Council, who agreed to take the following approach, and it was a triple approach. One, to retain high-density office employment lands as Z6. These are typically within the canals. And also to retain strategic Z6 lands such as Dublin Port and Guinness Diageo. The Council also agreed to prepare master plans or LEPs or SDZs as appropriate for those large industrial zones such as Park West, Kylemore in Chicor, Dublin Industrial Estate, Finglas Jamestown Road and Malahide Road. Together those lands make almost 300 hectares. We also agreed to bring forward for variation from Z6 to Z1 or for mixed use smaller sites with the capacity to meet housing demand and which are relatively well served by existing public transport, schools, etc. 20 such sites were identified, and these are the 20 sites before you tonight. These sites went out in public display during November and up to January of this year. There were 283 submissions, which are all set out and the response in the report before you. The proposed zonings are primarily to residential or to mixed-use zonings, and in some cases Z9 open space proposed alongside canals and watercourses. It is important to include mixed-use zoning because this allows for existing beneficial uses to remain on site, perhaps concentrated in one part of the site with residential on the remainder. I would ask councillors to bear in mind that the rezoning of land does not take away existing use rights that remain on the land. And indeed, paragraph 14.6 of your development plan provides for non-conforming uses to remain on zoned land. It should also be noted that both Z1 and Z10 mixed-use zoning allows for a variety of uses which are generally permissible, such as childcare facilities, community and healthcare facilities, recreational, education, local retail and local trading facilities. It is the full intention in the proposed rezonings to retain this rich mix of uses which contribute to the fabric and vitality of city living and at the same time brings new homes into the area. As you know, your development plan has broad categories of land use or mixed use. And as rezonings do not address issues such as height, which are a matter of urban form and design, nor are zonings to be determined on the grounds of site ownership. The 20 sites before you have the capacity to be developed in the medium to short term. They comprise 55 hectares and, if you allow for the mixed-use element, have the potential to provide between 3,000 and 3,500 new homes, in addition to the 20,000 in the larger Z6 sites which were referred to earlier, and the 32,000 in the core strategy of your development plan. So the 20 rezonings are set out in page 138 of your report, page 138, and Chair, with your permission, in order to maybe help you along, I'll go through each of them with you and just give you a two-liner on them and tell you what the Chief Executive's recommendation is, and then you can decide what to do with them.
Okay, I think the members expressed a wish to have a general discussion about this first, so we'll exhaust that before we go through the individual ones.
Lord Mayor.
Councillor O'Toole, I think you're the first.
Thanks, Lord Mayor. Before I get into the nitty-gritty of this, Lord Mayor, I think it's most unsatisfactory to hear again we are being given a deadline, and definitely not, and we haven't had any chance to consult with people and all of that. And I'll ask a question, and you can come back to me, Manager, with this. What are the consequences if we don't meet that deadline? You can come back with that. Now, I want to go down into more particulars here, especially numbers 9 and 10 on the map B2 and B7. The rezoning in Santry Village and on Shannon Road. We've had several meetings with the residents. The residents are very reasonable, most reasonable set of residents that I have ever met. They're not against development, they're not against housing. They recognise, like myself, the dire need for housing, but they haven't been consulted. They feel that the wool is going to be pulled over their eyes. we have a history and we have examples of what happens when we pass this. The developer comes in and pays absolutely no heed whatsoever to previous promises. I'll give you an example, the jam factory on the Malahide Road. This developer came in, and when we rezoned that, he then came in with a totally different plan for a development. Height, density, the whole lot. You cannot trust the developers. And I'm with the residents in not trusting any developer that comes in here when we rezone this. I'll give you another example, and it's very local. It's Santry Village. You talk to residents in a place called Schoolhouse Lane in Santry. I have, and several other councillors have, been on to the enforcement. They have been highly irresponsible. They're carrying out dangerous practices, they're working after hours, all of that. That does not then give any hope or confidence for anyone, councillors or otherwise, to put our trust in developers on this. Lord Mayor, and I'll finish on this, we need to have, and there are other areas in the city now people will come in on, I'm sure. We need to have a proper local area plan, proper consultation. Otherwise, I certainly wouldn't be able to support any of this, Lord Mayor. But I'm all good.
Thanks, Councillor O'Toole. Councillor Stocker.
So, as the manager has said here in relation to this was originally brought forward in 4 years ago, so what's that, in 2016, in a context where we did not have strategic housing development legislation, in a context where we did not have the 2018 guidelines in relation to height, in a context where we had better standards in relation to apartments. All of those contexts have changed. I think all bar his own party members here would agree that Minister Murphy has launched what can only be described as a fundamental attack on democratic planning decisions across our city. In light of that, we cannot accept the rezoning of land for residential use as much as we would like to, because we have absolutely no guarantee that the residential development that will happen on that land will be appropriate to its surroundings. We have no guarantee that the residential development that will happen on that land will not be co-housing, will not be student housing, out of the budget of any student I've ever met. We have no oversight whatsoever on what we would be giving the green light to. So, I mean, the Minister has completely invalidated the Dublin City Development Plan, and in light of that, it is impossible for us to greenlight these decisions for rezonings. We can only hope, in the context of government formations, that in the coming months we will have a different Minister for Housing, a different government, and one which rescinds the strategic housing development legislation, rescinds the circular issued in 2018 on height guidelines, and returns democratic planning to the City of Dublin.
Thanks, Councillor Stocker. Councillor, I don't see the red light.
Councillor Stocker, will you...
Councillor Freehill.
Thank you very much, Lord Mayor. Well, I spent 6 hours on Friday night last, from 6 in the evening until midnight, reading through all the submissions. And in my time on this council, I've never come across so many submissions, 292, I think it was. And I think that tells its own story. The last speaker pointed out that, that there is a very serious lack of confidence in the planning, the way it has, that the City Council's development plan has been interfered with by the last government and the Minister, and it's left us with, we have absolutely no control once we agree to rezone. I think we've got to remember that, when we're dealing with planning, we're dealing about creating housing for people. We're dealing with communities. We're not just dealing with a commodity, and very often that is what this comes down to, is a commodity. I also find it very significant, having read through a lot of the submissions. CIE point out that the proposal in Savile Place would interfere with the Dublin-Belfast line. The OPW point out all the dangers and the seriousness about in relation to drainage. The Port and Docks point out that it's their land and that they never asked for it. There's a place over in Calmore Road where a Unifarm or something want to rezone the people next door who had to move from Fairview because they couldn't, they were in the wrong place, and they don't want to move away from there at all. The Department of Education, I ask all of you to please read the submission, because it highlights in all of these areas the number of extra school places at primary and secondary that would be left. Now, this is the whole point, that we have to have, by doing this, there is no integrated approach to spatial planning, and until such time as we actually have that. And finally, can I say that in Harold's Cross we agreed a local area plan 6 years ago. It's still sitting on the thing, despite the fact that the council have already got 6 million from the area. So, unless we begin to recognise our responsibilities on this council, we're wasting our time. Thank you, Lord.
Thank you. Councillor Pat Dunn.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Lord Mayor, I consider this to be one of the most important reports that's ever been put in front of us in recent years, because its effects will be felt right across the city. It actually is a debate that's going to be very closely watched, probably even live tonight, by the landowners, by the developers, by the speculators, because they are the only ones that would actually gain if we accept this report. Once rezoned, that's the end of our input into what happens to these particular lands. Because what will happen is based on, Councillor O'Toole referred to the Chiver site that was rezoned a little over a year ago. And that immediately went, the nice plans that was given to the local councillors at their area committee meeting were tore up. And that immediately was fast-tracked to on board Planala. We are being asked to buy a pig in a poke here tonight by rezoning. Because once we would do that, we lose complete and absolute control over what happens to these lands. In relation to the report itself, I note the manager's responses, where he welcomed the responses from the statutory bodies, where he welcomed the responses from the Dublin Chamber of Commerce and other business interests, the IDA and so forth. He noted residents' comments and ignored them. And I think that was done on the basis that it was decided in advance that this was what management wanted, to basically make a recommendation to rezone these lands. The issue of employment and local employment has been ignored, and absolutely ignored if you read the manager's responses. There's also services in the 4 industrial lands in the Kimmage Mines constituency that I represent: Sunshine Industrial Estate, Herberton Road, David Road and Greenmount Industrial Estate, where we have community facilities. We have Addiction Response Crumlin holding one of the main buildings in one of these sites. We have Drimna Boxing Club that our Olympic champion Michael Carruth is still the head coach in. All of these community aspects have been completely ignored in this report. I will speak against each variation. I intend to vote against each variation, even in areas that I don't know the ins and outs of, because I see it for what it is. An opportunity is like placing an advert in the front page of the property supplement of the Irish Times that the developers come in and have a field day. If we're serious about wanting to properly develop some of these sites that may be underutilised at the moment, let's do so on a case-by-case basis, looking at a particular proposal for a particular site. Otherwise, I say reject. And could I just say, Lord Mayor, that we could speak about this for the whole night and come in on each of the 19 variations. I propose that we actually reject this report in its entirety. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Dunn. And Carla McDonagh.
Gramagat Ardvera. Tá 5 minute more agam leis an tuairis seo. Léiríonn sé chun Cé cholág is atá agus luchtach satá an chorus planála sa tír seo. I have major problems with this report. Now, I think I accept, and we all accept, that in theory, and certainly in reality, it's absolutely necessary that we zone more land for housing. There's no question about that, and we need to do that. However, this is happening within a deeply flawed planning and zoning system, and that confronts us with this dilemma. There's all kinds of aspects of this are problematic. I asked the planning department about a number of sites, a good number of sites on this list, about the ownership, and I received a reply. We did put a request to our law department, but unfortunately they are not in a position to address the query, mainly due to the scale of work currently underway in relation to short-term letting legislation, and also they raise concerns regarding GDPR. So, we're being asked to rezone lands, and we're being told by the law department, well, we can't be told, maybe we can't be told about the ownership because of GDPR. We're not told there's any bar, statutory bar or anything else on us being told the ownership of the lands, and it is very relevant. It goes on, generally where lands are being considered for a change of zoning, it is common for the owners of the lands to make a submission, and this is the usual way our department identifies owners. I will come back to you once the public consultation is closed, and if any of the owners' representatives for the owner or representatives for the owners have made a submission, I will identify them to you. So, on Iblishin, the problem with that is we're relying on the owners to make a submission before we can be told about the ownership. Now, that's totally unsatisfactory. I could go on. So I have major problems with this. The Minister made the strategic housing development legislation. He could have just as easily had made legislation that made the planning system more transparent. And finally, final point, we have no guarantee, we have no knowledge of what type of housing will go on these lands. The problem in this city, as we know, it's not only supply, but it's the lack of supply, but it's also the lack of supply of the right type of housing, the necessary type of housing that people desperately need. We have developers speculating on the housing that will give them the most return in the quickest time, and that's not the type of housing that's needed. So that's another major cause for concern.
Last Lord Vera, Rachel Batten.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I have grave concerns about all these plots, the 20 being plotted together. In relation to the manager saying that he'll address the Chief Executive's comments on them, I think I might be able to assist in that. But the majority of them were copy and paste, bar a couple of words in all 20, recommending every single one of them, recommending all of the large businesses such as Dublin Chamber of Commons, the IDA, but no in-depth detail in relation to the residents that are living in this area, have direct knowledge of this area. I have grave concern for a Chief Executive who's just had 2 years extension on his contract, not taking real consideration of the residents and the citizens of Dublin. We have both section 9 and 10 on this recommendation of Santry Village. The councillors in this area asked, with all proper processes, to have a local area plan and to ensure that there's proper development done in this area. We weren't against the development. We want to ensure that the proper infrastructure put in place, that the concern from the Department of Education that there isn't capacity in this area is addressed, that the infrastructure in this area is addressed before there's development. To go ahead and waver through the 20 recommendations, I think, is disgraceful. I do think we need to go through them individually because they are very, very different areas. There are some of these that rightly may need to be zoned differently, but because they're being put together and there's concerns in relation to the current Minister for Housing has a strategic plan, that there's no guarantee of what type of housing is going into that. There's protections that need for the people in the area. And this can't be something that we address 10 years down the road. Good planning is vital, and to have areas where there's local area plans, that is important. We can't come back to this Chambers in 10 years' time and go, sorry, we got it wrong. Sorry, we built Ballymun and now we've got billions and billions to put into it to try and rectify the errors we made in the past. We have an opportunity to rectify it now, do it properly, and I would urge the management to take those issues on concern.
Thanks, Councillor Batten. Councillor McVeigh.
Thanks, Ardvara. Well, as other speakers have alluded to, during the development plan process, a serious amount of work went in, not just the councillors, but also residents from across this entire city. A huge effort was made to protect housing standards, green space infrastructure, amenities for community, for culture, etc. And not just the last government, but also the previous government have engaged in basically a race to the bottom on housing standards. And our city is being treated as a cash cow for speculators and vulture funds, cuckoo funds, reinvestment estate trusts, developers, the list goes on and on. The planning process is supposed to be a democratic process where communities and councillors can have a say in how the city has developed, and all of that process, as well as the standards, have been seriously undermined by the previous two governments. So on that basis, myself and my colleague Councillor Norton will be opposing all of the zoning variations, and I want to formally second the proposal by Councillor Dunn that we take this in its entirety as a report and reject it.
Councillor McVeigh, Councillor Carla Crean,
Gormalgad, I would have likened to supported Damien in having a special meeting on this. I really think it would have warranted, but look, democracy rules. I'm not going to try repeat, but I am concerned because the whole development plan is about building sustainable communities where people want to live, work, grow and learn. We're working in a vacuum here. And a previous councillor said, like, when it's rezoned, it's like that ad, it's a home store more, when it's gone, it's gone. There's no going back on this. And we have there's nothing here in front of us to say what is going to be built there. I have serious concerns about the rezoning in Cork Street and anywhere in around the Liberties, because at the moment, what's residential are unaffordable student accommodation, co-living. That's what's being classed as residential in that area, and that's all that's been built. And my community and the Liberties are seriously concerned that once these are rezoned, that it will not be public and affordable housing or affordable rent that will be built there, but it will be more of the same, which is expensive student accommodation. So we have serious concerns about that. That's why I am reluctant to give this the go-ahead without the full details of actually what's going to be there. Other issues raised with me was in Kilmainham, and I know it's addressed in the actual report, was in around Kearns Place and Ladies Lane, and the serious flooding that happens there. Now, I know the council spent a lot of time and effort the last time in addressing some of that, and we did reinforce the wall down at Ladies Lane, but that area is quite, it's prone to flooding, so there would have to be a guarantee that we'll address the flood risks that are in that area. I think everything else that I wanted to mention has gone as well. Just when we mentioned that we're rezoning it and we're going to do residential, like one of the things is it's not just bricks and mortar we're talking about. We're talking about the social, economic and cultural sustainability of our city. And if you leave that into the hands of private developers and private speculators, and what Councillor Freehill said, using housing as a commodity, we will not get to a sustainable city that we want. Can I just say, in the Liberties area, are these rezoning suggestions, are they in line with our LAP for the Liberties? Gormagov.
Councillor Kieran Perry. Councillor Conroy.
Okay. Yeah, I have serious issues with some of these. I went to the information meeting as regards rezoning the industrial lands, which overall is a great idea because in more places they have the bus links and the shops and everything within walking distance. The problem is it's not planned. And for example, in Santry, there is no local area plan there, and at the moment we have 3 cranes in places. Swiss Cottage, they're building high-rise apartments there, 1 and 2 bedroom, built to rent, not quality homes. There's no talk of having families in that area, which would be ideal. At the minute, Santry is chock-a-block with congestion, and there's no plan on how we're going to get traffic through the village. Santry Avenue has like a Ben-Hur kind of roadway there. If you were a cyclist, it's unbelievable. You're taking your life into your hands along there. There's no overall planning around the whole Santry area. It seems to be nearly like a DCU campus. It's all the time for 1- and 2-bedroom apartments for students, and no long-term planning. We have flooding. We have the problem of boil water there only recently, two incidents of boil water notice, and you're now going to add all of these apartments onto it with no infrastructure to correct the water sewage system there. There just doesn't seem to be an overall plan for the area. We have the strategic housing development, which the last government have brought in, and they've basically shot over everything that would have a sustainable village. And I could not see us backing this if there wasn't more planning in place to make it a livable city for the people who are going to be living in that area.
Thanks, Councillor Conroy. Councillor Murray, is it?
No, it's myself.
Councillor Feeney, sorry.
It's myself, I think.
No.
I'm read here.
Yes, Councillor Cooney, my apologies.
Thank you. I think we do need to go through this one by one. I see some merit in some of them. Obviously, you know, it's some of them are even to Z5 for urban parks, city parks needed in probably quite built-up areas like in Seville Place. I do have concerns about the Santry industrial lands and both the Santry ones actually, but I suppose I would be most familiar with the Santry industrial lands. And I think that the report there that we did go on a walkabout with the area manager around Santry, and we saw that there's a lot of improvements that are needed around Santry. We had a small amount of discretionary funds that wouldn't go enough. And actually at our area committee meeting, I chaired that particular meeting. Councillor Heaney wasn't available at that particular thing, and the full consensus of everybody across party was for a local area action plan, and yet this comes back to us. So what happened to the democracy there? We said no, we wanted a local area plan, and yet it's come back on the agenda here. So I just wonder why we had that meeting and we had that discussion at that meeting. So they're not underused industrial lands. You know, there's Pacer in there. They've won enterprise things. There's there's potteries. There's all sorts of things happening in that industrial. And there's people employed there. Where are they going to go? And I know some of them actually have 10-year leases as well. So I just think, you know, to preempt that, we should be putting in maybe a strategic zoning for the area, maybe a local action plan, but we shouldn't be running rodshot into putting in housing. And also, we don't have a windfall tax. Perhaps the new government will bring in a windfall tax. Perhaps we could look at our own lands and see some of our own lands that might be more suitable to industrial or small business, and we could do a swap, and we might want to build public lands or cost rental on certain sections. And so it just doesn't give us that flexibility. Once we have zoned these lands, it'd be beyond the price for us to be able to buy ourselves. So I think we should go through them one by one, because some of them do have merit, some of them in my own area, and some of them don't. So thank you.
Councillor Feeney.
Yeah, I mean, while we fully appreciate, I think that we badly need more housing in the city, you know, and need greater density. I think it has to be done in a planned way, in a holistic way, and taking into consideration the many agencies that provided submissions in relation to education, access to that in the area, transport, etc. But there isn't a great deal of transparency in relation to how those issues are going to be addressed, other than assurances from the CEO that they will be addressed at the planning stage. So we're asked for a lot of trust, but once we rezone, we'll have rezoned. And undoubtedly some of the sites may merit rezoning, and we do need to make space and make sites available for building. But where there's a commitment to local area plans for some of these sites, you know, I think we really should ask the manager to defer some of these rezonings where they have local area plans committed to, ask them to defer it until the review of the area plan, which is going to happen later on this year. We've also issues like in the case of Harold's Cross. It has a local area plan committed to. But it also has an issue around flood alleviation and the Poddle River. And that was raised by the OPW. Now, while there is an application in for flood alleviation scheme, that hasn't gone through yet. And we need to see the outcome of that. There's also the issue of we're trying to promote in the city small enterprises and where are they going to go in future. So we need to understand that some of these, like Brickfields, Sunshine Estate there, and Greenmount and others, have small little enterprises. And I'd like to see how would they be accommodated in an overall plan. And again, that should be referred to maybe the review of the development plan coming up. So finally, I would just ask the manager to look at some of these, particularly where a local area plan was committed to, and to defer rezoning until a review of the Dublin City Development Plan takes place later on this year. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Cooney. Councillor Rowe. Yep, we'll come back to you. Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the reports. I think we all acknowledge there's a housing crisis. We all acknowledge that a lot of work has gone into this. However, we absolutely have to focus on sustainable development. And I think that is what our development plan does. That's why we spend so long literally going over and over and having consultations and first and second drafting. And when we talk about sustainability, many of our colleagues have said it's about sustainable living, sustainable work, sustainable education and health. And it's having all of those in one place that you call a community. And if you take Santry, there's already a significant amount of development going up there that rides roughshod completely through our development plan. A lot of build-to-rent, there's student accommodation, and it just seems that the focus is on, and I know a lot of colleagues have said it, is making as much profit out of housing and turning it into a commodity. We really need to sit down and see what types of units we want, what size of units. We want people to be able to live in these. There's people who actually want to buy their properties and they can't if it's all built to rent, co-living or student accommodation. For example, in Santry, the Department of Education has indicated that we need 490 primary school places and 330 post-primary places. There's no public land there to build that on, so we're obviously going to have to spend money buying land on it. The other big issue I have is the eradication of local employment opportunities, and a lot of employment opportunities that are not really easily got in other areas. And if you want sustainable planning, you need to talk about the circular economy and having those opportunities in it. Just can't all be everyone going down to the Google's centre of the city centre. The last thing that really annoys me is the SHD and board planning process.
Your time is up, Councillor Gilliland.
I just want to say there's an awful lot of those that are being rejected by the Board Planola inspector, and Board Planola board itself accepts them. Now that is absolutely poor planning, and we cannot stand for it. Thank you.
Councillor Conroy.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Yes, well, I voted no because on the understanding that I am fully supportive of the need for additional housing, social and affordable housing throughout Dublin, but the variations are quite different, and so we can't just support the entire proposal. I also think it's really insufficient that all of this is brought to our attention with a deadline at the 14th of March. Because I'm representing Kimmidrath Mines, there are several proposals within this variation, for instance, Sunshine Estate and Brickfield Park, which is an area that, yes, I do believe it would be a good idea to build on brownfield derelict sites, but there's no clarity, as we've all said in the room, no clarity as to what the development would be proposed. And that's an essential part of us agreeing on this. And for instance, in that area, in Dolphin Park, City Council refused the 6-storey block of apartments to be built on children's sports ground where 11 schools use it for a GAA pitch, but on Board Planola have agreed to it, and that is completely incompetent in that area. There's also the situation in Harold's Cross where in terms of the amount of development that's going on there, it is taking over from retail, from community halls, and in the current area that's proposed, there are protected structures, and there's a disparity here because in other parts of Dublin, even putting an extension onto the back of a protected structure is refused. So in that regard, this is not enough time for us to approve these variations. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Conroy. The Councillor, who's it? Don't see the red light up. Councillor Heaney.
Just three things. The first issue is I'm not sure. Initially, when I read the report, I thought all of these lands were private. I seem to be getting an indication from the manager now that they're not all private lands. So I'd like him to go through, as we're going through each of the proposed variations, and give us a detail on which is private and which is public. The Chivers site, which has been mentioned by one or two speakers, has frightened me in terms of any rezoning that I could agree to, because we had a hugely, at our local area committee in Dublin North Central, we had a hugely engaging experience with the owner of the Chivers site, who had given us commitments about what was going to be built there, and we had engagement with local residents, and we brought everybody on side. We brought people with us, and then when councillors encouraged members of the city council to rezone the lands, everything was changed, and the height was increased, and the developer or the owner of the property told us that he was told by the planning department that he wouldn't get permission if he didn't increase the height and density. So that's kind of scared me around any rezonings. The other issue is particularly in relation to the really large one, the item 9, 1,000 residential units possible. I'd be concerned for anybody who would purchase any of those 1,000 homes in terms of a lack of services, schools, etc. So I think certainly item number 9 deserves to be put under the spectrum of a local area plan, so people can have some kind of certainty around what has been proposed. And then the third issue, Lord Mayor, is that scares me is the height and density guidelines that was issued in 2018. Lord Mayor, I think I am in favour of development. I don't have an issue around rezonings per se, but I do have an issue around people living in 2-storey and 3-storey accommodations being subjected to 10-storey accommodation looking in on top of them as a result of the height and density guidelines. And because of those height and density guidelines issued in 2018, I think it's scaring a lot of us around the rezonings that are asked of us here. So I'd be inclined to support the smaller zoning, the smaller rezonings, but I certainly am fearful of the larger ones.
Now, members, there's at least 15 people indicating, and if we go 2 minutes each, we're going to be here till all hours. I know there was a proposal earlier on to defer this and have a special meeting. I don't know, members reconsidering that?
No.
I think it's fair to give some people 2 minutes and others 1. Our mandates are all equal.
Exactly. No, we need to have a proper discussion. We agreed that we would have a proper discussion.
We agreed that we would have a general discussion and we go through each one by one. But I mean, we're up against the clock here. We have 15 minutes before we go to emergency motions.
Could I propose a special meeting again? Have a vote?
Right.
Chairperson. Could I, Chair?
Just, yeah.
Chair, can I
Councillor
propose, Chair, because I have the microphone, that we actually do support Councillor O'Farrell's proposal to have a special meeting, because there's 15 other people to speak, and then we have to go through each of the variations. We're going to be here all night, as was said at the very beginning of this particular item, so I think we should put it to a vote. Huh? Put the proposal to have a special meeting to a vote, not to put the report to a vote.
Sorry, Councillor McAdam. Yeah.
I'm not knocking my mic off.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why the suggestion was made to go back to the original proposal about having a special meeting. I think everybody's mandate is equal, and if some people have spoken for 2 minutes, everybody else should be entitled to speak for the same length of time. Well, is there a proposal to extend the meeting? Yeah. Okay, so our members agree with...
Just...
We're not going to conclude the business.
We will.
Lord Mayor, let's stop having a procedural round and just get on with the meeting and then see how it goes. There's a proposal
There is a proposal to have a special meeting. Can we put that to the floor again?
But
Is there a seconder for Councillor Dunn's proposal?
But just to say that if you're voting on a report, you're voting yes or no on the report. Yes. But the vote to defer to have a special meeting comes first. So you have to have that vote before that.
Chair, just as a point of order.
One member at a time, please. Councillor Deasy, could you knock your mic?
No, object. Oh, sorry. Do you want me to turn it off, or will I speak? Can I speak about this? I'm afraid to touch it.
Well, you see, the order of speakers was dictated by the original. This is a separate question.
I'm not going to touch the microphone because I've got this opportunity now. We would second Councillor Dunn's motion in terms of just rejecting it outright tonight, if that was possible, and I think there's quite a number of people who feel the same.
The manager wants to come in on it.
Procedurally, what is expected of you is to deal and vote on each of these individually, not en masse. So that is what is expected of you, is to vote on each one, not the report in its totality. It's each report. There's it.
Yeah.
There is an alternative here, so we don't have a procedural row. If group leaders want to meet for 2 minutes to discuss a way forward on this, I'm happy to facilitate.
I prefer we kept going to that.
Keep going.
We're not.
Keep going.
Why don't we just keep going?
Just keep going.
But
we're halfway.
Yeah.
Is usually
Members,
suspend the meeting.
Members are agreeable to suspend the meeting for 5 minutes to allow group leaders. Great.
If people withdraw to the Richard O'Carroll room, if group leaders withdraw to the Richard O'Carroll room, and
it's not a bad idea, but who'll turn up for it? That's the problem.
Well, yeah.
People who turn up for their own little areas.
It's either important enough to discuss or it's not. I agree with that.
that there has been a previous
Councillor
case
Cooney.
taken by Dublin City Council against Bord
Councillor Cooney,
Panola, so it
was
wouldn't be the
agreed.
first, and that we did win the last one, and that possibly
Members, can we have a bit of quiet, please?
take the Our House Convention on this. Thank you, because it's so important, and it will stop what the other councillors have been saying in relation to strategic development plans, bad planning, going against.
Right, okay. Councillor Murray indicated on the point of order.
Yeah. Well, you get longer in a point of order than I do to propose it.
Sorry, Ardmere, just on a point of order, I actually requested that my name be added to that motion, and it's just for some reason it's not on it, so I'd like that recorded on my name on the motion, and I endorse your proposal to take it without debate.
We'll note that. Thank you, Councillor Murray.
I would like to just speak in support, and people may kill me for this.
Sorry, it was agreed with group leaders that this was without debate.
Not of the motion of Councillor Cooney's right to appropriately put forward her reasoning behind the motion and the fact that similar judicial cases have been taken by the Council.
Yeah, look, it was agreed that we would take it without debate. That means it's agreed by the Council or it's not agreed. It has, I understand that there is general agreement to take it. So we'll move it on. Now.
Is that motion agreed?
Agreed.
And the one.
Yeah, thanks, members. Now, there's another one here by another motion by Councillor Lacey, and my understanding is, group leaders earlier on today, is that the manager has agreed to maintain the status quo in relation to this matter until the area committee, the South Central Area Committee meeting next week.
Just on a point of order there, Manager, the gate is actually currently being it's not being locked, so it's not a change of the status quo. It's to revert back to the status quo, and I'd just like to add my name to the motion as well. Thanks very much.
Right. Now, is that agreed? Thanks, members.
Can the manager actually, Lord Mayor, can the manager just confirm what you just said? Please.
Yes, no, that was agreed. We will bring back to the status quo of having the gate closed until we have a discussion at the area committee meeting next Monday.
Thank you very much.
Lord Mayor, just on a point of information, the motion that was proposed by Donna Cooney and that was agreed without debate, could we hear maybe from the manager what is he going to do that, or? I don't want to be misleading people or wasting people's time, but I think the manager, we should hear what the manager has to say about the motion that has been agreed.
Okay, manager.
We'll give it due consideration, and we'll make our minds up, and then we'll see what we will do. Thank you.
Councillor O'Connor.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Can I add my name to Councillor Lacey's motion as well?
Yeah, agreed. Hey. Right, so we move on then to the members.
Ardmere, can I just come in on that? Can I just ask, in relation to that motion, is that the only park that's affected by the new opening and closing hours? Have the manager to give a statement on what's happening to all the other parks, if there's any? Thanks.
Manager.
I'll arrange to have a statement issued or a report issued to all the members in relation to what parks are remaining open as opposed to closed. But the vast majority of our parks are open all the time anyway. But I'll get the park superintendent to issue a note to you all.
We go to motions on notice now, which is item one. Motion one is Councillor Joe Costello.
Thank you very much, Lord Mayor. This particular motion has been on the agenda since the 5th of July, almost since the election, and really very little has changed in terms of the housing situation. So the original motion is that a moratorium be placed on the sale of public lands owned by Dublin City Council, and I'm asking that that be slightly amended, which are to this clause being introduced, which are deemed by councillors to be suitable for housing, and then the rest of it is as the same while the housing crisis continues. And that's a slight amendment to it so that it brings it within the remit of councillors, and really councillors should be the people who should be choosing, rather than that we get a package of proposals for the sale of land from the manager and then that we have to decide on those. The situation, if anything, Lord Mayor, has worsened since we started. It's now a national crisis, still housing situation, homeless situation. We're well over 10,000 at the present time. And we really need a package of proposals, including this particular proposal, to get a grip and get a handle on the need to address the situation. We need a package, and a package does include what we saw in the papers today, and I've been seeing for a period of time, the need to freeze rents as they are during the crisis. Focus Housing came out strongly about it today, and the situation that is happening in Berlin, where there's a 5-year freeze going on at the present time. We need to be in a situation to stop evictions taking place, and of course we need to stop the sale of public land. And the final element of the package is that we have to be building at the same time. And that brings us to the nub of the question. Dublin City Council is the housing authority. All local authorities are housing authorities. They have a specific legal remit to build houses, to put roofs over people's heads. And we have built very, very few houses in the last 20 years. Part 5 has been something of a disaster, and we've taken money in lieu of houses that could have been available in many cases. So we have to address the situation anew. Otherwise, we're going to have this crisis with us all the time. And we must hold on to the 32 depots that Dublin City Council is disposing, or at least has at its disposal at the present time. We must hold on to the rest of the public lands, the industrial lands, and the brownfield sites that are in our ownership. We're talking about the rezoning at the present time, and it's very important that we look at all of the available lands in the context of building up the city with 100,000 population over the next decade, and to keep that within the city boundaries. So clearly, our own lands are extremely important to this. At the beginning of this term, we put together the Dublin Agreement, and in that agreement, we promised that we would keep Dublin City Council lands within the remit of the Dublin City Council. But in the process, what we would also do, we promised a campaign of councillors of the Dublin City Council Executive to campaign to get funding and to get staffing and to get apprenticeships, construction apprenticeships, and that we would put pressure on central government to do that, because central government have not been cooperating with this local authority. We cannot build houses unless we have the staffing and the skilled people to build those houses, and the apprenticeships as well to do it. So I think that what we need to do is to look afresh at how we're going to go about this. We need to put together a package of proposals to deal with the existing land stock that is there in terms of alleviating the crisis that we have at the present time. And we can only do it with our own lands properly. We have seen that most of the private sector at the present time is building coning, they're building build to rent, it is student accommodation, it's office accommodation. They are not building family homes. So we can...
Councillor Costley, your time is up.
We are the only people. This is the only body, and other local authorities around the country, that would be able to address that the problem adequately.
Thanks, Councillor Costello. Is there a seconder for that motion? Fitzpatrick. Councillor Cooney, I believe you're next up.
Public lands that we place.
Councillor Costello, will you hit your mic? Thanks.
Just to speak in support of that we'd really keep our lands for public housing, because it's important that we not sell off anything, that is suitable for housing. That this is something, so right now we have a map now, that a map is being developed since my motion was passed in February. It ties in quite nicely now with Councillor Costello's motion and with the Dublin Agreement. So it's in line with that. I know that there has been, and people are looking at me across the floor there has been lands that have been sold, but we can work now forward from the council that we have now and not from things that we had in the past. Let's move forward and look at using those lands, and in fact let's look at even acquiring more lands. And it might be a case that we might be looking at swapping, one bit of land for extra land somewhere else. But we need to agree them, and that they would be anything that's suitable for public housing, that we could start building on them now. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Cooney. Councillor Mary Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, thanks, Lord Mayor. And I'm happy to support this motion. I think we should all support the motion. There shouldn't be much debate about it. The City Council is set up as a local authority, and its primary responsibility is as a housing authority and to provide housing for our citizens, something that we have been very lacking in, certainly in the last 10 years. The housing need is well documented in this city with more than 4,000 homeless individuals, and that doesn't count all of the many hundreds and thousands of people that go undocumented but who are essentially homeless in our city. The outgoing government has put more money into private rental accommodation, into temporary housing solutions, into homelessness than what they have made available to this City Council or other local authorities to actually develop real lasting homes for our citizens. The debate we've had this evening about the rezoning of lands that are not within our ownership or our control is very instructive to this motion. Because in this motion, what we're saying is we as a City Council are going to take ownership of this issue. We're going to hold on to the lands that we have, and we're going to exercise our authority on those lands. In so doing, we should pass the motion, but then we really do need to push the incoming government for adequate funding to develop the lands, for a redefinition of public housing, for an affordable rental legislation that will actually allow for affordable rental in the city as a standard. And we need to champion this. But the first step in championing housing solution in the city is by taking ownership of it as a City Council, holding on to the lands that are zoned for housing, and then using them for that purpose. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Fitzpatrick. Councillor Gilliland.
Gormagat, Chair. I think one of the key arguments that we've often had in this chamber is around that ascertaining whether a disposal or a site is suitable for housing or a community facility. And last week, Councillor Lacey, because of my absence, moved a motion to the planning SPC that called for an assessment to be done, a detailed assessment on every single site exceeding 300 square metres that we propose to dispose of, and that we would look at its suitability for any type of housing, whether that be social, affordable rental, or even private sale. It doesn't matter in the first instance. And that motion went through. So I think, as amended, Councillor Costello's motion gives us a vehicle, as Councillor Fitzpatrick said, to take charge of our own lands. And should we ever be in doubt, that that assessment and that report be there, and we can make an informed decision as to what we are going to do with our land. Gormagat.
Thanks.
Lord Mayor, I don't have a problem with the motion in principle, but I find it now hypocritical of Councillor Costello, who sat in government when we were calling on government to stop evictions and to put on a rent freeze. And I can go down the list. Now, no disrespect to Councillor Costello. I mean, I would respect him and what he's trying to do. But it's a bit rich listening to a man that was at the cabinet table for years while there was the crisis hit this city like an express train. You had eviction after eviction. You had the homeless going up in numbers by the hour. You had landlords using the excuse that they were either selling off land, and it went on and on. So it wasn't stopped by either Alan Kelly or any other member of cabinet where they were in cabinet positions. So, as I said, I agree with the principle of the motion. I too want to see public houses built on public land, but I also want to see affordable homes built. I also want to see where young couples have the opportunity to get them up on the property ladder that they don't have. And maybe it's time we look outside the box, because it would appear that politicians can't deliver on housing. Because there's not in my backyard, and let's be honest about it, that goes on here, like Lanigan's ball, they're stepping in and stepping out. So maybe we need to think outside the box. So I won't go any further on that, Lord Mayor. Margaret.
Thanks, Councillor Burke.
Thanks, Lord Mayor. Even though I'm getting a bit bored with this argument, but I can't but jump at the chance to highlight the irony of Councillor Costello pushing this motion when the very person, his party and the Dublin Agreement gifted land for free to a private developer in O'Devney Gardens. Not once, but twice. Voted twice. Also, the same party who had the Minister for Housing when the housing policy document of 2011 practically excluded local authorities directly building homes and forced the direction into leasing and approved housing bodies. Same party who had the Minister of Environment, Alan Kelly, who had the power to do what was necessary at the time and chose to do the exact opposite. So, while I'm sure people are as bored as I am raising this issue yet again, I can't but highlight the absolutely two-facedness of the Dublin Agreement group in trying to pretend that somehow they care about public housing. This is clear, absolutely clear. I'm sick of listening to the waffle from the lot of us. Actions speak louder than words. You had your opportunity to vote for public lands, public housing on public lands in O'Devney, and you chose not to. You chose not to twice. So don't try and play to the audience now as if you really care about public housing. You had your opportunity and you chose to support the developer over your own community. Gurmagat.
Thanks, Councillor Perry. Councillor Murray.
Gurmagat, Ardvera, Councillor Perry. I have some sympathy with Councillor Perry's views, Ardvera. This seemed to have been a principle of the Dublin Agreement, but it still seems to have leaked out of it a bit. So here we are trying to reinforce it again. The idea that we need a moratorium, we don't need a moratorium, Ardvera, because every piece of disposal has to come here anyway for a decision. So de facto we have a moratorium. I think this, I've no issue, Ardvera, I seem to be in the minority with selling land where the City Council feels it's worthwhile. We have lots of lands that we've done nothing with for years and years. And I think this will just gum up, this will just be a kind of an ideological position that will gum up our activity and gum up the system. So I don't support the motion. Gurmagat.
Thanks, Councillor Murray. Councillor Freehill.
Well, I just thought that blaming is such a useless activity. I was thinking back when I came on this council under the Labour Party's influence. We built the Pigeon House Road, all the lovely houses down there, New Bride Street, City Quay, Upper Rathmines Road, the Cattle Market and North Circular Road. So I'm very happy that the Labour Party, given the chance and given the opportunity, certainly have built houses. I mean, to talk about 2011, when in fact the country was bankrupt, is just, it's quite irresponsible. So it's extremely important that we move on now. And in between that period, we had the nanny state, and everything with Fianna Fáil and the PDs was to privatise everything as much and as quickly as possible. And that is how our housing department got dissolved. And that is how, at this stage, that the construction, the responsibility for the City Council is dispersed now with various housing associations. And the Council really needs to start pulling that kind of responsibility again and starting to turn our policy to being enthusiastic about building housing in this city for families, because that's what we need very badly. There's no reason why we can't do it. I know some organisations in this city that are actually borrowing from the European Investment Bank at a 0.75%. There's no reason why this City Council couldn't borrow from the European Investment Bank, and we could get moving on. And it was the Labour Party that saved the depot lands from the 9 depots in the city. Nobody else seemed to have been aware that that was happening, because we know what's going on. So you can blame all you like, but in fact we deliver the goods, and will continue to deliver the goods.
Thanks, Councillor Freehill. Members, just to say that we're running up against the wall at 9 o'clock, and there's a lot of speakers have indicated to speak on this. Deirdre has indicated she's taken your name, so we can come back to this at the next meeting, if that's in order with the members. So the next.
Not taking it now, Chair. No.
Or we can put the matter to the floor.
Did you give the results, John?
No, no results.
The first variation.
No, they didn't give the new
Costello amended his motion as follows: that a moratorium be placed on the sale of public lands owned by Dublin City Council which are deemed by councillors to be suitable for housing while the housing crisis continues. Well, sorry, are we calling for a vote? I'm just saying.
No, the debate continues.
You want to go ahead?
Okay.
Right. Sorry. Just understanding orders, we cease the motion. There is no unanimity and going to a vote now. There's a list of speakers who wish to speak, so that will be. We will conclude this motion at the next meeting. So we go on to item number 10. Report number 85 of the Climate Action, Energy and Environment Strategic Policy Committee, amendment to waste management bylaws. Just note here that this is going out for consultation. This is not adoption. It's going out for consultation. Can I have a proposer? Councillor Nisho Murray, Councillor Ray McAdam. Is that agreed?
No, Lord Mayor.
Councillor Lacey.
Lord Mayor, before we agree to put it out for public consultation, I'm just looking for clarification. In section 2.4c, it specifies that Dublin City Council may approve various different things. Can I just clarify exactly who or what is meant by Dublin City Council in this regard? Because I have one view if it is the 63 elected members of Dublin City Council. I may have an alternative view if it is the executive of Dublin City Council. So I think it's an important distinction in this context, and I want clarification on that, please.
We'll bring the approval back to the City Council.
You will bring, so in this context?
In the context of this, if we proceed with a pilot, we'll bring it back for approval of the full City Council.
And I think, well, no, that's not what I'm saying. Hold on. No, sorry. Lord Mayor. I want to know that in any decision taken under this section 2.4c, that Dublin City Council means the elected members of Dublin City Council.
We're happy to confirm that any decision taken under this will be made by the City Council.
That's an important clarification.
Well,
Thank you.
I'm just giving it to you.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Lacey.
No, sorry, hold on, no.
Oh, sorry,
Councillor Donoghue.
Yeah, sorry, just a couple of things on this. This is obviously a huge issue that plagues the entire city. I'm blue in the face talking about this in the southeastern city. But I was wondering if we could clarify a couple of things on not an extensive explanation, but even a brief introduction of what's meant by, what's the term, containers used for reuse, and just that there exists as well a subgroup as part of this SPC around the remunicipalisation of waste. And I'm wondering, as part of, is there capacity for consultation with them as part of kind of the public consultation where we might be able to feed in? Because we've talked about this specific issue and pilot programmes that we could deliver as part of that working group. So I'm just wondering, is there a capacity for us to be engaged, or for that subgroup to be engaged with as part of the consultation?
The public consultation is open to anybody, so this is really about seeing if we can get a technical solution, some kind of collapsible and reusable container in which people would place plastic bags. So it's just to try and address the particular problem of presentation of plastic bags. But people can make any submission they want during the public comment. It's a completely open process.
No, sorry, that's not the question I meant. I'm aware that anyone could make the submission, pardon me. What I'm asking is, can we make facility to engage directly with that group? Because there's members of the trade union on it. There's a number of councillors who've been active on this issue for quite a period of time, that we might, as part of the consultation process, just engage with them.
Councillor Costello.
Yeah, just clarification too on what the only waste containers suitable for reuse may be used for the presentation of household waste. Now, are you talking about plastic containers that are put into bins? Are we talking about an only bin operation? Because, of course, there are containers that are biodegradable, and in relation to bag collections, where areas where there is no storage area, and where already Dublin City Council have designated that you don't have to use bins, is there going to be any change in that? And what exactly are we talking about plastic containers? Because there is containers that are biodegradable that can be used at the present time.
Just in respect to that, Councillor, I think what we're trying to do is explore to see is there solutions that will provide for reuse in areas where bags are prevalent. So where you don't have the room to store a wheel bin which will protect your waste when it's presented, that there may be some sort of alternatives that could be used in those areas, and then maybe collapsible or stackable or flat packed in some way that would allow them to be brought into properties that don't have adequate storage space for wheel bins, and allow them to be able to present their waste in a way that doesn't lend itself to the creation of litter or bags being blown on the road, or presented in a haphazard way that I suppose impedes mobility and that kind of thing. So it's looking for a way for waste presentation to be, I suppose, better serviced in areas where bags are used at the moment.
Thanks, Manager. Councillor Friel.
Yeah, I would have thought, I mean, I think it's fine doing public consultation, but I would have thought the council need to be doing some technical research in that area as to how we can actually find the kind of containers. I live on a main road, and I can tell you, when there's high winds, as was the last couple of days, it's a very sore point having to lift very, very dirty waste that comes flying into my garden, and I'm not alone. There are a lot of people in that situation. So the whole thing about actually securing waste and that it doesn't spew all over the place is a big thing. But I mean, should we not actually be looking to various organisations and research and so forth as to how we can do that? Would public consultation give us that information? That's what I just wonder about.
This is, I suppose, one element of trying to do this. The other element is engaging in innovative procurement to assess what solutions are available on the market, and to be able to test prototypes that might become available, or test solutions that are proposed to us through that process. All that this does is allow us within the bylaws to designate areas where such containers may be implemented, and to allow us to trial and test that sort of solution as it becomes apparent.
Thanks, Manager. Councillor Pigeon.
Just to clarify, this is a vote for a public consultation to test out essentially a collapsible box to put bin bags in. So we're also more than happy to engage with people via the SPC, via the working group. That's a subcommittee, the SPC, when this comes there. More than happy to do that. But I'd really just suggest we just pass this.
Is that report agreed for noting?
No, Lord Mayor, just to add my voice, but I want to support the public consultation process, and just want to thank Simon Brock for the ideas that he's coming up with and trying to put out there and trying to get the proper results. And I mean, Simon Brock is known for his efforts and his energy in trying to resolve litter in the city of Dublin and trying to put an end to the illegal dumping. So well done.
Thanks, Councillor Burke, and thanks, Simon.
Is that report agreed for noting? Item number 11, proposed name change of 65 and 67 Ratoath Avenue to 65 and 7 Kilshane Road. Can I have a proposer for that, Councillor Murray and Councillor Riley? Is that report agreed? Now, with your permission, I'm actually going to try and take the rest of the business. Can we take item 13 first? A to H. It's all the disposals. Councillor Jackson and Councillor Burke. Is that agreed? Then can after that, can we take the item 14, report number 86, the annual report of the Audit Committee? Can I have a proposer for that? Is Councillor Declan Flanagan to Councillor Terence Flanagan. Is that agreed? And report number 90, item 15, and can I take these together just for noting? Item 15 and 16, the monthly management report and the housing supply and delivery report. Councillor Nigali and Councillor McAdam, are they agreed? And then can we take the policy and breviates together? So that's no. Okay, there's which one don't you want? Number 17. Okay, can we take items 18 to 27? Councillor Jackson and Councillor Flanagan, are they all agreed for noting? Okay, so okay. Well, look, we'll go back to taking them individually then. Okay. Well, we haven't. Oh yeah. policy abbreviates we hadn't taken. You wanted to raise something. No, we wanted to go back to 12, so we'd have all the business done. So,
Councillor Lyons?
Yeah. Yeah.
Knock your mic.
Yeah, I want to come in on 23.
Okay. Yeah, now I'm on. Okay, thanks, Mary. Yeah, it's just the Climate SPC abbreviate from November. I just want to have the poster protocol issue reverted back to the SPC for further discussion. There was a couple of serious concerns around data protection and the public liability that were raised with me subsequent to the meeting, and I think it warrants further discussion and amending at the SPC, and the chair of the SPC has agreed very kindly to this proposal.
Okay. Councillor Pigeon, is that in order? Okay, is that agreed? Agreed.
3, I just wanted to come in, and that's the South East report. And just on that agenda, there's an issue about the lack of access coming into this building here. And we have passed motion after motion to get handrails. I mean, it's lethal. It is very, very dangerous. And there seems to be, and I'm sure that the CEO will intervene on this, and that's why I just want to take it to his attention. There seems to be some kind of an aesthetic disagreement in the planning department or conservation. Now, I would have thought that they'd be able to find some kind of a compromise to make the place safe, which I think is the first responsibility. There are absolutely no handrails whatsoever, and I suggest you might go down the steps and have a look. And that cannot be allowed to continue. I know several people have fallen on those steps.
Sorry.
I don't understand how this is on the...
It was on the agenda of the South East.
No, it's not on the breviate, but we'll bring an item probably to protocol on it, because it's about disability access. So if that's okay with you.
Just also, it's the Access Cities.
The whole thing shouldn't be hanging on. I mean, there's been motion after
Councillor Frail, it's agreed. Thanks. Councillor McAdam. Councillor Costley, your mic's on.
It was on deliberately to speak.
Sorry. Okay, well, Councillor Costello's first. So.
Yeah, I just, in relation to the proposal for the trialling of the Liffey cycle route, it's something that we looked for. I had a question down to it a couple of meetings ago. The cycling campaigns, by and large, people were very much in favour of it. And remember that what we did was we spent the best part of 10 years, or at least the City Council did, spent the best part of 10 years looking at different routes along the Liffey from the point, the depot to the Phoenix Park, and finding it impossible almost. I think there was 8 different proposals put forward, and they were all rejected in one form or another, and it wasn't until the National Transport Authority decided to intervene that we came up with a proposal that was regarded as viable by this City Council as well. But this would take then until 2024 to be developed, and it would cost quite a considerable amount of money. So the idea that we would have a pilot scheme, we would have a trialling period of a Liffey cycle route was something that got a lot of support, and I think the last time we discussed it, it had the support of this City Council. And the only question now is, and we have a proposal before us, is this adequate? It's going to cost 800,000. It's going to be ready by August, by all accounts. And I think that it has a lot of merit. It will, of course, interfere with some car parking, loading bays, taxi ranks. They will have to be removed. But it will provide a 2-metre wide protection area, one-way cycle lane, for the vast majority of the length, which is very welcome, and 1.5 for most of the others, and then a certain amount where there won't be any. But no, there will be no loss of bus use. So I would say that this is something to be welcomed. However, I've had some concerns expressed by people with disabilities that it could be dangerous, and I would hope that in the process, while it has been finalised in the run-up to August, that these concerns would be taken into consideration. But all in all, it would be good to get this up and running rather than spending another 5 or 6 years in getting the final proposal in place. So I would be supportive of this proposal. If of course, Lord Mayor, there is room for the engineers to make sure that there is adequate protection and security measures.
Okay. Thanks, members. Can we just restrict our comments to maybe 1 minute?
I won't need the minute, Lord Mayor. Further to the meeting of the CPG on Friday, can I move that, along with myself and Councillor Pigeon, that we unanimously adopt the report for the trial of the Liffey cycle route, and that we ask the Chief Executive, along with the Chair of the Transport and Traffic SPC, to convene a special meeting this month to enable then any concerns that have been raised by some in the cycling lobby. We could do it Friday night if you want, and enable to get any concerns addressed so that we can enhance it as best we can, and so we can ensure that the best possible trial is in place by August. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor McAdam. Go ahead. Is it point of information, is it? Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, so can I just make a few comments on it? Is that okay? Because I feel it's so just that we would very much support that we would have a Transport SPC meeting and that we would iron out some of the details. I think there are, it is an unusually large scheme to not have examined in detail in the course of a Transport SPC, but in like the vast majority of things, I think is an overwhelmingly positive scheme that we're looking at here. We have talked about cycling and we've talked about improving it for about 10 years in these big scale projects, and we hit delay after delay. So I just want to very warmly come in and say, I think it's fantastic that we're looking at a project coming in the matter of months now, rather than in the matter of years and decades as we've seen up to this point. And I do think that where there are details in this, we need to start moving on it, and I think that's just to be very warmly welcomed. And let's look at the detail and let's have a discussion on it, but let's not push this back or delay it at all. Thanks.
Thanks. Burke.
Well, Lord Mayor, it never stands to amaze me. I thought at the cooperative policy it was agreed in principle and the vote would be put off till April until the Transport SPC discusses the concerns of all of the groups, from both cycling groups, people with disability, visually impaired, pedestrians, motorists, until their concerns were addressed. And then we would go back. There are parts of the cycle route which ends up on the boardwalk. There's a part of the cycle route from O'Connell Bridge up as far as Civic Offices where there is no cycle lane. And as was said to me over the weekend by an individual, that they've more of a chance to be knocked down on the path by a bike than they have on the road by a bus. So really and truly, my concerns are with the groups and personnel who oppose and have concerns for their own safety in relation to the cycle route. And I think that that's fair enough. And I've no problem, and we did agree to a special Transport SPC before 14th or 15th of March, which would be in the next week to 10 days. So, and I take it we'll continue with that and address the concerns.
Manager, do you want to make a comment on that?
Yeah, just to set it in context, I mean, what we were asked to do was to look at some interim measures. The final scheme requires extensive works along the quays. We know that the different boardwalks and the different interventions, they are impossible to trial. We can't trial a boardwalk. So there are sections of the quays where we can't do anything. We have a narrow width, we have a bus lane, we have one general traffic lane. We don't think it's feasible to take the general traffic lane off. So there are locations where it's not what we would want. However, you know, where we can't provide a continuous cycle track, we are proposing that the bus lanes be extended, the bus lanes be made 24 hours, 7 days a week, you know, so that at least there is some dedicated space there. It is not meant to be a final scheme because the final scheme requires considerable works. The reason it's taken so long to get to this point is that the final scheme, which will be an expensive scheme,
does provide the boardwalks, which allows us to make some space on the quays to accommodate the various different modes. So what we're proposing here is something that will enhance cycle safety. We should also point out that we're not proposing anything except temporary measures. We're not proposing any changes to footpaths. We're not proposing any changes to where people cross. We're not proposing any changes to the way pedestrians use the footpaths or the crossings or anything like that. We're not proposing any shared space. So what we're proposing is temporary measures on the road which will provide a measure of enhanced safety for the cyclist. So from that point of view, we're quite comfortable that this is not a scheme that has safety concerns for pedestrians, because, as I say, we're not intruding in the pedestrian space at any stage along the quays. Instead, what we are doing is we are trying to provide as much as possible of the cycle route, and we're also taking the opportunity to enhance some of the bus measures along the quays. So I think it's a scheme that we can deliver. We've said that we can put in place these measures by August. Obviously, that depends on the start date that we're given to actually go ahead with this. So from our point of view, we think this is a very feasible scheme that can be implemented. Thank you.
Thanks, Manager. Yourself.
Thank you, Chair. I welcome those clarifications from the Manager. This is a safe scheme. We need a safer city to get around. We need a cleaner city to get around for everyone. I'm a chronic asthmatic. I take a risk every time I leave the house with the amount of pollution that's in our air. I take medication every day. I don't cycle in the city because it's not safe for me. I cycled at the beginning when I moved to Dublin. I had 2 accidents. One I'll take partial responsibility for. The other was definitely not my fault. Men usually cycle around our city. It's not safe for women. It's not safe for children. It's not safe for lots of people with mobility issues. This is our small step. We're getting started. We've a long way to go to make our city easier to get around, cleaner to get around. Everybody should be in favour of this trial, and also to encourage everyone to give feedback on this. A trial is about testing. It's about asking questions. Does this work, and how can we do this better? We will learn, will this reduce accidents? We'll learn, will it improve our air quality? We'll learn, will it improve the diversity of the people who are able to cycle and walk around our city? We would also ask the management to look at how we are going to segregate our cycle paths with things like planters. It doesn't need to be plastic bollards everywhere. There are other options on how we can do this in a temporary context. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Knock off your mic, please. Thanks. Councillor McVeigh.
Thanks, Chair. Well, just to also very much welcome this. I think it's something that needs to be celebrated for all the reasons that everyone's already mentioned. But just to reiterate the commitment that was made in the group leaders meeting today to include the various groups that have raised concerns, as well as those that are very behind it, because if this is, albeit a temporary solution, now's the time to get all of those voices on board, so that when we consider this in the longer term, that we've already taken account of those issues.
Thanks, Councillor McVeigh. Councillor Murray.
Yeah, Cormac, just as a cyclist, I welcome the scheme and I want it pretty quick. O'Connell Street to Parliament Street is very difficult. Bad surface, really poor, a lot of competition with buses in particular. So anything that improves this length of stretch in the short term, I think is to be welcomed. And I contrast it with Fairview to City Centre cycleway, where we are still waiting and struggling to get shovels in the ground to get that project moving. Yet we have an opportunity to have this finished by the end of August, and it's the pace at which we seem to be able to do it, which is very unusual. That is just so appealing. So I wholeheartedly support it, and let's get on with it. Thank you.
Can we put that to a vote?
There's a few speakers still left to go. Councillor Hemmings.
Can we?
Councillor Hemmings.
I'd really like to welcome it as well, and just to echo what's been said before. There's been a lot of work done by various cycling groups, and it's great to see that Dublin Town and a number of other groups, the Chamber of Commerce, also support this. Obviously, this plan has been kind of proposed since 2013, so we've been trying to come up with a solution for a very long time now for what is a very, very dangerous place to cycle. I cycle very frequently myself. The left-hand lane heading upstream is a lot of buses pulling out. If one wants to turn right, you have to cross 2 lanes of traffic in what is a very fast-paced environment. It's a very, very dangerous place to cycle along the quays, and I do not see very many women. I see no children using it. And we need to create a new opportunity for cross-city transport here. And I think that this Liffey cycle proposal, albeit a trial, I think will help us iron out where there are issues along the way. I only discovered recently that I guest appeared on an RTE news.
Your time is running out.
I'll let him. When he was only...
I guest appeared on an RT news clip as a 6-year-old with my father at a cycling protest with then Green Party Lord Mayor John Gormley, who was also trying to get safe cycling infrastructure in the city centre. So it is a great honour to be here in this chamber and finally have a vote.
Yeah. Now,
we'll deliver this. We'll deliver this with your help.
Members, we're running fast out of time.
Yeah, I'm going to ask really that this would be put to a vote, but just to say, as the bicycle mayor Dublin, I was over in Amsterdam and to see the things. There was a time in them when they didn't have this infrastructure. I just want to thank the manager. I want to say that I've been on the Liffey cycle protests for many years now, and I think that this is progress, and it's very good progress. It's not ideal, but it's something that we really need, and it's something in terms of the temporary, it's some of the learning, that we took from Vela City. So thank you very much. And
is there a second for Councillor Cooney's proposal to put it to a vote?
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah, it's agreed. It's
right.
agreed.
Right. Okay. Thanks, members.
Sorry.
Yeah. That's agreed, members. Yeah. Thanks.
Just an issue has come up about the proposed adjourned meeting is that apparently a very high, there's a fashion show downstairs and big dinner, so it would be very noisy. And as Monday had been said, it wasn't possible for some of the groups. So the only option is any time after 3:30 on Tuesday. It could go into the evening. Could we go for a 4 o'clock, say a 4 o'clock start on the Tuesday? Yeah. No, tomorrow. No, tomorrow week. Tomorrow week. Yeah. It's a Tuesday, 10th. Is that okay? Is that okay with you all? 4.
We have an area committee meeting, don't we?
Say it again?
Don't we have an area committee meeting then?
Oh, do we have it Tuesday morning?
Okay.
Yeah.
Just take another day off work, grand.
So, members, have you agreed with the proposal that they're agreed? 4 o'clock until 10. On the 10th. Sorry, on the 10th. Sorry, my apologies. Okay, we're great. Right, I want to formally adjourn the meeting then until that date. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Jackson, thanks for that. Thanks.